And a pleasant Thursday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Eastmoor Academy for Week 12 of the high school football season. We are here to preview the regional semifinals involving Central Ohio teams. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod Ulrey, our guest to begin the show. It's Warriors coach Jim Miranda. Good to have you on, Coach.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, you have a big game. Of course, they're all big games at this point in the year. A regional semifinal in Region 11 against Hartley tomorrow night. It's been a pretty nice winning streak for you. What is it, 8 in a row coming into tomorrow? What's been the big key in carrying that play through the City South play and now into the playoffs?
I think we just started concentrating on focusing on some of the details and making sure that our guys were disciplined and guys are playing with a lot of enthusiasm. They're getting after it. They're working hard, and kids are making plays. And when kids make plays, you normally have success.
This is your second time in 3 seasons in the playoffs. Before that, you had several real close calls, a lot of ninth in the region type seasons. I mean, you've been had a really good program for a long time. What's kind of helped this program stay so consistently strong for so many years?
I think we have a great staff and we're committed and we sacrifice a lot of time and as long as we got kids who are willing to work, they'll come out and we're here working with them. We're here starting on the third, second week of June. And even this year, we had a greater commitment in the weight room in the spring. That's difficult when you have a good track program as well, and trying to get those kids into the weight room. But we did a great job. And so, if you can find kids who are committed and the staff who's committed and willing to sacrifice some time and energy, we do things. We work hard, and that's why we have success.
I know we were talking before about Savon Edwards, and I know you liked your quarterback Marquise Laster. Tell us a little bit about your team. A really special group of guys.
Yes, you win with athletes. There's no secret to it and stuff. And Savon is a tremendous running back. Our whole entire running back core is very deep. And those guys work hard because those guys up front work hard and they're motivated and to be successful. Marquise is just a special kid at quarterback. He was intended to be our quarterback last year, but he suffered some injuries early on in the season. But he's come back, as a beast. And I try to tell him he has to be magical in order for us to be successful, and he's doing that right now.
If I do my math right, you were 2-1. Then you had that big win against Walnut Ridge, right? Wasn't it the very last second of the game? How much did that help catapult you into the rest of the season? I mean, winning a close game like that, like you did, and then haven't played a lot of close games since then.
Well, Walnut Ridge and Eastmoor go back, and there's always decided in the last final minutes of the game. It was a tough back and forth game. Both of us missed opportunities, and we were going. Thank goodness we went for. Well, we tried to go for 2, and it was a fumble snap, and then they went down and scored, and they missed their field goal, which gave us gave me a sigh of relief, and having gone for 2 and not kicked the field, not the extra point. But we got down the field and we're going for the win. And as much as I like to say that I called it, it was a muff snap. And our Rashawn Hopper was just heads up, and he knew what to do. We practice. You don't practice the mistakes, but you practice the fumble snaps and those kind of things just in case. And he was smart to just pick it up and run. It just it was exciting. There's hardware at stake. Between us and a bell. There's a bell that we trade off with each other, and so that was one of the goals that the kids had. All from the beginning in summertime to win the bell back. So that victory, winning the bell, and big rival, they were undefeated at that time. So it was a great momentum builder to help us carry us going forward.
We got 4th seeded Eastmoor against top seeded Hartley at Hamilton Township. What do you think might be some of the keys to this matchup Friday?
It's going to see who can execute the game plan. To be honest and stuff. Whether we're both on turf, so I don't think the weather is going to play a big factor and stuff. And just be a little cold, might be a little snow, but who can execute and who can avoid the mistakes, and if we can contain them, they're very well coached and very disciplined offense. They do a lot of great things. They got some great athletes, so if we can just hang with them and put ourselves in a position to win the ball game at the end, I think we have a chance.
All right. Well, hey, we'll let you continue preparation.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Coach.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks
for being on.
Appreciate all you guys do.
Thank you. All right, Coach Jim Miranda joining us here from just outside of Eastmoor Academy. They're starting practice at the top of the hour. Hartley's a team that you know well. You cover them. I saw in your preview they scrimmage each other.
They do. They played each other every year since 2009
Okay.
in scrimmages, which is kind of a fun little fact. I'm not sure that it'll have much of an effect on this matchup because, I mean, you know, that a lot of times you're in the scrimmages, you don't have all your cards on the table like you do this one. But it probably gives each other, you know, that there's a little bit of a sense of familiarity, I guess, there that, you know, that might make it a little bit more intense, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
And I think from a matchup standpoint, these teams are going to be two of the most athletic teams that are going to be out there at this point in Division III. So I think there could be a lot of really exciting moments in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like he was saying, I mean, it obviously comes down to execution and who makes the mistakes. I understand that. But, yeah, ought to be really interesting.
And he has a quarterback who's accounted for 1,500 yards. You mentioned him, Marquise Laster.
He didn't make
touchdowns.
a lot of mistakes either. Only 2 interceptions. Yeah.
Yeah, against 20 touchdowns. And then you had Savon Edwards, who has rushed for 1,499 yards. 30 touchdowns all told, 25 of them on the ground. What a multi-purpose threat he is.
He's been great for a couple of years. So, yeah, there might not be a better running back in Central Ohio than him. It's very possible.
Well, and they're going up against a good one, too. Jalen January is a guy that you know well.
Awfully good, yes. And January's he's been a little banged up. He had an ankle injury a couple weeks ago. But as Coach Birchfield said on AM 820 the other night, he said, well, you know, his ankle was a little better this week than it was 2 weeks ago. And then this week it's going to be a little better than it was last week.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think he'll probably be – nobody's really 100% at this point in the year. But you know, he'll probably be closer to it this week. So,
for those who might not be totally familiar with the geography in this area, Hartley's about 2 miles almost due south of us, over just off Livingston Avenue. We're between Main and Broad here. So, I mean, it's not like you're, you know, typical like a city-south rivalry, like a, you know, where you had 2 schools in the same league. But still, it's kind of interesting. These schools are so close, and they're going to play down at Hamilton Township on a very nice turf field coming up tomorrow night. Looking at the other regional semifinals, we will head into Division I, Region 3. Several games that are going to be held to our west tomorrow night. One of them is Hilliard-Davidson against Springfield. That game will be held out in London. That's a Region 3 semifinal. Davidson is the top seed. Springfield is the 4th seed, so just like this matchup in Region 11. One thing that stood out from Frank's preview is they talked about that Springfield is going to be a different challenge than Huber Heights Wayne was. Both teams are athletic, but they're not necessarily athletic in the same way.
I thought the exact same thing. I think Coach White was talking about how they're going to be maybe a little bit physically bigger, physically stronger. They might not be as fast, but they're going to have a lot of great athletes. They've had a solid team down there for a long time, ever since they combined those 2 schools.
Yeah, Springfield North and Springfield South in the old days.
I mean, that's a very large pool of talent to pick from when you think about it from that aspect. And you know, they both Davidson's going to do what they do, and if they can control the action, I think they're going to be just fine.
Cool. And it looks like a balanced Springfield team that's going to be able to spread the ball out a little bit. They've got some multi-purpose threats.
Their quarterback he's one of them. I mean, he doesn't have spectacular numbers, but it looks like he can run if they need to. He can pass really well if they need him to. And Davidson's, you know, they do it with defense every week and a very solid running game. And if they can control the pace of play and control the action, there's no reason to think that they can't get through this game.
All right, and then we'll get the winner of the game that we're going to talk about. These 2 teams haven't played since 2010. That would be an intriguing matchup, you know, if they were to meet in the regular season, but they haven't played since this very round of the playoffs 8 years ago. The other semifinal will be at Springfield. You will be there after your volleyball extravaganza tomorrow at the Nutter Center, and that's Pickerington Central, which is the 6th seed in Region 3, against Clayton Northmont. They are the 2nd seed in Region 3. Pick Central, this is a matchup or a rematch of a game that Central won by 20 points last year. Played really well against the run was something that stood out. I don't even think Northmont had 69 yards rushing.
Right.
They've got a real good running back and a pretty strong quarterback right now as well.
Well, Northmont looks like they passed the ball really well. Their quarterback's thrown for 29 touchdowns.
2,500 yards?
2,500 yards, Miles Johnson. You know, Pickerington Central needs to have a game where they're kind of controlling the action a little bit. I mean, I would never say that a team got lucky when you win a game in the playoffs, but, I mean, they had a 93-yard fumble return for a touchdown against Hilliard Bradley, and they were outgained, I believe, 354 to 172.
That's correct. That's more than double. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how many playoff games you're going to win if you're going to get outgained by twice as many yards. So they've got to come out with a really good first half, and because this is the type of team. I mean, if they fall behind, I'm not sure if they fell behind by a couple of touchdowns. I'm not sure how well they do. So.
Well, this was one of the wilder games last week. Not as wild as the one that I covered in Cincinnati, but it was an interesting one. Noticing that Bradley was up 13-0, and then Central just keeps kind of crawling back, and they win that game. And a lot of people, Scott and I talked last week when we did the Facebook Live. It's like Central was probably the favorite, even though they were on the road, and they validated the opinion of anyone who thought that. But
and there's going to be a mental barrier for Northmont because of Central beating him by 20 points, and it really was not a close game last year. I mean, they really controlled the action, and so that's something that's definitely in Central's favor. So let's see if they can kind of take advantage of that and control some things out there.
Northmont got here by beating Hilliard Darby. Their only loss on the season was to Huber Heights Wayne, which Davidson defeated last week. Moving north into Region 2, this is the game I will be covering tomorrow night. The Ulrey Bowl, one of them, between Olentangy Liberty, which is the 4 seed, and Reynoldsburg, which is the top seed. And you've got a team that has a lot of playoff pedigree in recent years in Olentangy Liberty, but you've got Reynoldsburg, which is one of the most dominant teams in Central Ohio. They're the newbies in the playoffs. I mean, kind of getting to this point, obviously building on the best season that they possibly have ever had. I'm really looking forward to this game for several reasons, and I just think it's going to be an intriguing one, just the way this season has gone for both teams.
Yeah, Liberty is a team that's very dangerous because they have the experience. I mean, they've been in 8 playoff games over the last 2 years. So think about that. I mean, they've played 28 games over the last 2 seasons, and they're in this is week 12 of this year. So that's a lot of games over the last 3 seasons. A lot of extra practices, a lot of experiences together for guys like Mitchell Oakley and Aiden Kenley, their sophomore running back. He played quite a bit last year. And of course, their wide receivers, a lot of those guys are back. Linemen like Alex Azuzanis are back. So they're not going to be intimidated by the situation. Now, Reynoldsburg is a very difficult opponent right now. I think they're going to be a tough out. They're playing very well. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They won 52-0 last week, and they didn't have Mershawn Rice because he wasn't feeling well.
Okay.
So
and they still put up 313 yards.
Yeah, they were just fine, just without him.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, they beat Toledo start last week, and what you covered, the Liberty went over to Hannah, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken. Correct.
Yes.
So both teams building momentum, as I guess anybody at this point in the playoffs certainly has been able to do, continuing their seasons.
Reynoldsburg continues to make big plays. I mean, Brand Eddings had 3 interceptions last week, and you got to figure Mershawn's going to be back this week, and as long as this game could get away from Liberty early if Reynoldsburg gets a couple of big plays early. So that's going to be a big key for them. They've got to stay in this game for a while, and then if it comes down to the end, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, we saw Gahanna beat Reynoldsburg a few weeks ago.
That's right.
Yeah, so
sure did. And the winner of that game will play the winner of the coming game that we're about to talk about. The other Region 2 semifinal will be up at Marion Harding. Dublin Kaufman is the 2nd seed, taking on Toledo Whitmer. Whitmer, they come in off a win last week over Olentangy Orange. They have a really good quarterback that we discussed last week in Riley Keller. He's a junior, has tossed for 1,831 yards. He now is up to 20 touchdowns on the season. And Kaufman's own quarterback had a pretty productive weekend of his own, or Friday of his own, rushed for 3 touchdowns and threw for their other touchdown when they beat Westerville Central last week. That'll be a fun matchup to watch.
Well, I think you and I got the same vibe from thinking about this matchup. I mean, we were both. I thought about the quarterback play in this too, because I know Coach Crabtree was very happy with the way his quarterback played, just from what I can gather. So, and we know that Kaufman's got some really good. They got some playmakers, Matt Dorencott, and they got, and of course, the running back. And I can't think of his name right now.
Are you talking for Dublin Kaufman?
Yeah,
Musa Diallo?
Yeah.
Mike Drennan, of course.
Mike Drennan, of course. So, it's an interesting matchup for sure. I mean, how they can control Whitmer's passing game is going to be a big key for this.
Whitmer, if you're an objective fan, I should say, they're a fun team to watch. I remember it was in this round last year that they edged Olentangy in a classic 32-29.
You were at that game, right?
I was, in a bone-chilling atmosphere up at Tiffin, not in a bad way, but in a very cold way. I mean, they certainly have held their own out of that area the past couple of years. And then the winner of this game will head to the regional final next week. If it's two Columbus teams, and it very well could be in both regions, we'll see how that breaks down. But we'll talk about that next week. Moving into Region 7, another school that's close by here is the Whitehall Rams, and they got over a little bit of a hurdle last week, winning a playoff game. They went out to Dover and won 38-31. They'll take on Massillon up at Arlen Field in Mansfield. You know, Rams have to be feeling good about themselves, but they have quite a challenge in front of them, too.
Yeah, no question about that. Whitehall got off to a really good start last week. Dover came back and made it into a great game. Whitehall has to get off to that kind of a start this week, I would think, too. You get off to a slow start against a team like Massillon, and you're going to be in some trouble. So.
Mm-hmm. They're averaging 47.8 points a game, an average that was helped only in part by the fact that they put 101 up on a team from Pennsylvania in Week 8. They haven't scored less than 24 all year, and that was an early game.
I wonder how much flack they've taken for that.
You know,
putting up 101 points. I mean, it seems ridiculous when you just look at the numbers.
I wonder, and I don't know. I do remember seeing the score of that, and I think it was 73 at halftime. And I'm sure that's got to be a tough situation, even for the coach that's wearing, probably even more so, because
when it's a mismatch, teams can kind of luck into some touchdowns when it's that bad of a mismatch.
Happen.
I mean, I know about that. So.
Well, and I think we talked as well that in that same vein, there was a game about 10 years ago that I know, what was it, Beechcroft beat
96
Centennial.
to nothing. Yeah.
I was living in Houston at the time, and I remember hearing about that, and I remember that the coach, Tom Dunlap, at the time, didn't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, being a humble guy, just kind of embarrassed by how the outcome, but, you know, sometimes it's unavoidable, unfortunately. Yeah. And we'll see. But Whitehall, yeah, I mean, they've won 10 games in a row since that opening loss to Westerville Central. I believe we were out there, 2 weeks ago? To preview their game against London. Massillon, by the way, is 11-0, in case I didn't say that. Heading to the southeast, it'll be Harvest Prep. This is down in Region 27, taking on Gloucester Trimble. That's going to be down at Logan Stadium tomorrow night.
Saturday
night, actually. Yeah, one of the, I think the only team
one
in our
that
coverage
we're really
area
worrying about, right? Mm-hmm. That's a Saturday game, right?
You know Harvest Prep. You've talked to them throughout the year. I mean, they're going to face a Gloucester Trimble team that's only given up 40 points all season, shut out a good Fisher Catholic team last week, 37-0. I think that game was only like 8-0 at half. I was listening on the way back from a soccer game, and Gloucester Trimble really pulled away from them. Could be very interesting. Harvest Prep facing a pretty good team tomorrow or Saturday.
And Harvest Prep beat Fisher Catholic 12-0. Gloucester Trimble beat them 37-0. That doesn't mean that Trimble's that much better than them, but I mean, I will say that this game could get over in about an hour and a half because
both teams like to run the
both these
football.
teams run the ball really well. They run it a lot. One thing that could help Harvest Prep is they're getting a little healthier, so that's something that could help them. They got their running back. They got one of their running backs, Javon Eggert, back. He hadn't played since week 1 of the regular season when he rushed for about 220 yards in their opener, and he was out for the next 10 weeks or 9 weeks, and he was able to get back out there. He got cleared. He got a little bit of got his feet under him a little bit here this past week, and gives them another option to go along with Daquan Owens-Johnson and some other guys. And they also were without Moses Davis, their quarterback, for a couple weeks. So they got him back this past week. So those are some things that bode well for them. Now they're going to be Harvest Prep's going to be going up against a team that does the wishbone, runs the ball extremely well, very old school type of system and old school coaching and stuff like that. So, and
you see that a lot down in D6, D7 football, it seems like. And you mentioned about Harvest Prep battling some injuries. They haven't had a lot of close games even so, other than the ones against Fisher Catholic and Burton Union, both of which made the playoffs, I want to say, in this region. Well, Fisher definitely did in this region.
The Christian game, a good game.
Earlier on.
A good game, but for the most part, they've and I think they may have even been a little bit surprised at how well they were able to play against Franklin Furnace Green. So.
All right. A couple other games that are from just beyond our area. This is a Region 11 semifinal, so that would be the winner of this game that we're about to mention faces the winner of the Hartley-Eastmoor game, and that will be Granville going up against Thornville-Sheridan, and that game's going to be on the turf at White Field out in Newark. Outside, again, just a little bit outside our coverage area, Bloom Carroll will take on St. Clairsville, undefeated St. Clairsville out at Zanesville. And then in the other Region 15 semifinal will be Licking Valley against Ganotton Indian Valley. I think my Ohio history class in 7th grade for telling me how to pronounce Ganotton. That game will be
I didn't think
Philo.
that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. In Division 4, Region 16, London takes on Clinton Massey, a team that you saw play Harley earlier this year. That game's going to be down at Miami Trace. And then in Division 5, Region 19, Johnstown, looking for its 11th win of the season, will take on Bel Air, and that game will be out at Maysville, just outside of Zanesville. Any thoughts on any of these games that are Central Ohio teams, but are just beyond our coverage area? Anything about those?
Just mostly the Granville-Thornville Sheridan game. Granville's put themselves in a great position. And, I mean, they're going to be playing a Sheridan team that pulled an upset in the first round. So,
down at Bellbrook.
If Hartley were to beat Eastmoor, and we'll talk about this next week if it happens, I mean, you'll have a rematch of Brad Birchfield against the against the Granville coach, Justin Buttermore.
That's right.
We don't want to look too far ahead.
But it's something to think about if it does come about.
But and I do think Eastmoor does have a chance.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a very interesting game, and lots of other. Johnstown's had a great season. It's great to see them continuing to go on. They a lot of times have had a hard time getting past the second round, so it's going to be big for them.
And we'll see what happens. It's a certain guy's brother-in-law helps coach special teams at Sheridan, so I'm curious to see what I hear tomorrow night, and definitely at Thanksgiving about the playoff run they've put together. Well, we will see you next Thursday. Not sure where we're going to be yet. We'll let this week's games develop, and we will talk to you next Thursday at 3:30. Don't forget to log on to thisweeksports.com for all the information. We've got all the football playoffs covered. You will be at state volleyball tomorrow. Cross country is Saturday. We will have that covered for you as well. For Jarrod, Ulrey, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.